Our next inductee, this is all I gotta say. His authentic and distinctive style has made him one of the most accomplished and distinguished voices in sports broadcasting history. Please run the video.
Right now, take a look back at the great career of the great Brent Musburger.
Thank you, Jay.
You are looking live.
You are looking live.
Good afternoon, everybody.
I'm Brent Musburger. Welcome aboard.
I'm Brent Musburger, along with Rick Barry.
Welcome to our brand new home.
Welcome, everybody, to Belmont Park.
All right, big fella, I predict stardom for you.
Take your hat off to Mr. Jimmy Johnson. He went out with guns blazing on a dusty street in South Bend, Indiana.
Rags to riches just went riches to riches. Today, Jeff Gordon makes his 500th career start.
There will be no dynasty. That's it. Villanova has done it. Rick Barry is coming around. He's going to try to score. Mariners win it. Mariners win it. They went for it all. A diving pass for a touchdown. Holy cow.
Got the big man. Tap try. Pulls free.
This is for all the Tostitos.
A perfect ending to an imperfect system.
Garhoud turnaround shot in the air. It's good.
Flutie flushed. Throws it down.
Caught by Boston College. I don't believe it. Deep. Billings is going to the championship.
At the buzzer, McCord on its way.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, he gave him a facial.
Save the women and children.
You know, I knew it was going to be good, Parker, but I had no idea what we were in for.
Folks, I've had the best seat in the house. Thanks for sharing it. I'll see you down the road.
Please welcome Brent Musburger. And Brent, do you remember all those plays? You remember them all? You're welcome.
Thank you. I'll take that right off this. Wow, what a night. Thank you. Wow, thank you all so very much. You know, I've always wanted to do this. This year's class, everybody who's been up there, stand up. I want everybody to stand up. Just stand up right now. My man, my long snapper, my linebackers, my coach. Have we got everybody up? You are looking live at the 2021 class of the Montana Football Hall of Fame. Let's hear it for them out there. Let me hear it out there. Come on now. You know, the truth of the matter is, honestly, what the hell am I doing here? You know, I was not as fast as these guys. I was not as tough as these guys. But man, did people like this ever make my life interesting? I never had to work a day in my life. I just went to the next damn ball game and watched guys like we're honoring here tonight, and it was so great. Time of my life, but the other part of this is Montana. Montana, okay? I grew up in Billings, okay? And I've heard it echoed here tonight. Shane talking about Bozeman. Marty talking about his family. There was such a great sense of family in this state, okay? And none of us could have done anything without the help of a great family. And Marty was saying, he was thanking somebody from traveling from New York to Montana. Are you kidding me? The ones that can't get to Florida, they're coming to Montana right now. Everybody wants to be here, and it's because of people like you who have made this state so great. I have to congratulate all of you and the families and the support that we have had. And yeah, it was my father and mother. They were working, and I'll never forget, there was a football player. I think he was a Grizz, Bob Graves, good running back. He was running a recreation baseball program, and I was playing. And I wanted to pitch one day. I wanted to be the pitcher. And he would have no part of it. So I kind of went home weepy, like a young, overweight kid would do who probably shouldn't have been pitching anyway. And told my daddy, Cease, that the guy in charge wouldn't let me pitch. Well, Cease then got a hold of the Little League people back in Pennsylvania, got the program started in the state of Montana. And I have to tell you, I was looking at the highlights of some of those things we've done. I have had such great moments involving Montana, and it was none better than the Little League World Series in Williamsport, 1-0 over Huntington Beach in that semifinal. Those of you who watched it, that was so exciting. That really was one of the great games that I ever broadcast. It was just awesome. It was so good, so good. And, so then, my family, they move out to Big Timber. And we've got a ranch outside of Big Timber. And that's where we meet the Houck family. Now we know about Bobby, who's with us here tonight, coach of the Grizz. And we know about Tim. I got to tell you something. I do radio right now for the Raiders. I wish we could find a half dozen Tim Houcks on our special team. Let me tell you that right now. No one could hit any harder. But some of you don't realize that their father was one heck of a coach, okay? And he coached out at Big Timber. But the great story is about the Houck. Oh, yeah, let's hear it for the Houck family. They've meant so much, all right? So, now my father was an old German, and he ran this ranch. He already needed some people to help him out. He'd hire the Houck boys in the summer, come out and help him paint up around the place. And Bobby will tell you that he liked painting. He liked painting for Cease out there on the ranch, but Cease would never give him a lunch break because he wanted to get it done. You know what I'm saying? He didn't want to pay him for that hour off. But I will tell you right now that Bob and Tim Houck, along with being great around football, they were tremendous fence painters. My daddy always told me that nobody could paint a fence like the Houcks did, okay? So now I go, and I'm going to tell you about the next Montanan I run into. In 1963, I started as a newspaper man in Chicago, and I traveled with the White Sox, I traveled with the Cubs, and I was in the locker rooms. I like I said, I grew up in Billings, a baseball guy. So one day, the sports editor told me to go out and start covering the Bears. I don't know what had happened with the beat writer. In 1963, they'd been beaten up by the San Francisco 49ers. So I pretended that I knew a lot about NFL football, but to tell you the truth, I'd never seen a game in my life, okay? So off I go to Wrigley Field. Now, Wrigley Field is where the Bears not only played their games, but they also practiced. And George Halas is a legend, and I walked in that outfield door, left field, and I walked up to him. He knew I was coming, and I introduced myself. And he called me young man, and being from Montana, I could always recognize gunfire, okay? And I heard gunfire in Wrigley Field. Halas wasn't paying any attention. I kind of peeked up toward the rafters up there, and there was this big dude, and he was shooting pigeons with a .22. And Mr. Halas, and I didn't even know how to phrase the question, you know? I mean, like, what's this sumbitch doing up here killing pigeons? You know, anyway, I pointed, and he looked up and he said, oh, that's Doug Atkins. Now, those of you who know anything about football know that Doug Atkins was one of the greatest defensive ends in the history of the game. And he paused, and I waited, and finally Mr. Halas told me that Doug has bad knees, real bad knees. So we don't practice Doug during the week, but I want him to come to practice so he gets George Allen, who was the defensive coordinator then before he went to the Redskins, so that he gets George Allen's game plan and gets it down, and we let Doug hunt the pigeons. Well, true story. Doug Atkins became a great friend. Well, Mr. Halas was also very good friends with Vince Lombardi, and of course, in covering the Bears, I covered a lot of Green Bay Packer games. during the years. And in that time, back in the 60s, they had a guard by the name of Jerry Kramer, Jordan, Montana, okay? And one of the great injustices of the Hall of Fame is it wasn't until 2018 that Kramer was inducted, but thankfully he's in there. But you would play Vince Lombardi and the Packers, and you could count on it. Starr's the quarterback, Horning's the running back, Jimmy Taylor's the other running back. They would call the sweep, and here would come the boy from Montana who went to college at Idaho, Jerry Kramer, hauling ass with Fuzzy Thurston right there with him, those two guards. And it was such a delight because what I remember most of all about Jerry was how nice, I was a young reporter, I was intimidated by all these guys, but Jerry was so gracious, kind, and answered the questions. And then the greatest game that I covered as a newspaper man was the Ice Bowl. The Dallas Cowboys, Tom Landry, Vince Lombardi. I don't know how many degrees below zero it was. Coldest day I've ever experienced. Went down on the field before the game, and Lombardi was livid. I'd never seen him this mad, and I'm thinking, what in the hell has happened? Why is the coach so upset? What's gone wrong? Has somebody got a copy of his game plan in the Cowboy locker room? And I said, Coach, what's the problem? And he said, damn General Electric. I said, whoa, come. They put those electrical cables, I paid a fortune, underneath this field, and they said it would stay thawed out. And look at it. You guys look at it, it's frozen. Vince Lombardi's worried about the field, and he's getting ready to play the championship game with the Dallas Cowboys, okay? And so many things happened in that game that Montana comes to play in the end. One thing, Bob Hayes had those hand warmers. Jan Stenerud knows exactly what I'm talking about. Back in the day, he had hand warmers, and he'd come up to the line of scrimmage, and when he wasn't the main receiver, those hands would go right into the muffs. And Willie Wood, the safety, just rotate on over to the other side, okay? But the Cowboys stick with it. I got to give the Cowboys a lot of credit that day, and we're just trying to clean the press box window off. It's freezing up every 10 minutes just so we can see the field. Frank Gifford's doing a game for CBS. His coffee froze that day, and it's one hellacious football. It comes right down to the end. Cowboys look like they're going to upset him. Bart Starr comes over to the coach, and Vince says, go ahead, call the sneak. And this is where Montana comes in, because it was Jerry Kramer and the center. A lot of people have overlooked Bob Skoronski. And Bob Skoronski was right there in the middle, baby. And those two bore right into Mr. Lilly. Touchdown, Packers. Green Bay wins it. And it's just memories that I will never forget. Just being around guys like that. And then down in the locker room, how exhausted they all were after giving their all. So I have so much credit to give the people who coach and play and all of these great events that I've been able to cover down through the years. And of course, when I go into television, 1975, I'm so excited. I'm an unknown. And Mr. Wessler, the head of CBS Sports, has made me the anchor of the NFL today. And he said, I'm going to put Irv Cross with you. He said, do you know Irv? And I started to chuckle, and I said, Mr. Wessler, Irv Cross was at Northwestern with me, and I know him very well. He's a great athlete out of northern Indiana, and I thought, it's going to be Brent and Irv. We're going to carry this first live pregame show. I'm so excited. In July, I get a phone call. Mr. Wessler says, Brent, do you know a Miss America by the name of Phyllis George? And I go, Bob, I'm sorry, but I don't follow the Miss America pageant that closely. I'm going to put Phyllis with you. Now, listen, I got no juice, okay? I mean, it's not like I can't say, what are you talking? No. Hey, that's fine. That sounds like a great idea. I got to be the good soldier. But I got to tell you, we do the first rehearsal. You know how all of you have met people when they walk into rooms, how the room lights up. I mean, they make you feel better by coming into the room. They're warm, they're engaging, they know the people. you think they're automatically the best. That was Phyllis. And back in that day, there weren't any women who had major roles as broadcasters covering sports. So we knew it was going to be tricky. And Phyllis never ever pretended to be an expert about football. But the trickiest part, believe it or not, is how the women would accept her. You don't realize that when it comes to female broadcasters, believe me, the female part of the audience is critical. But they accepted Phyllis with open arms. She was great. The show was a hit. It was the first live pregame show. And then, of course, the next July, I get another phone call. Brent, do you know Jimmy the Greek? I know Jimmy the Greek, okay? Sure, I had traveled in out of Las Vegas when I was covering baseball, and the Cubs were going to play the Dodgers at Koufax. I'd always stop off in Las Vegas. Of course, I knew the Greek. Everybody knew the Greek. But I said, Bob, what does Commissioner Pete Rozelle think about us putting a gambler up on the NFL Today? Bob was super confident. Listen, don't worry about it. The three of us are going to have a meeting. We're going to have a meeting with the commissioner in August. It's a meeting I'll never forget. Jimmy the Greek, Bob Wessler and Brent, and the commissioner, who had been a good friend. And I did know one thing about Rozelle, because I'd seen him at racetracks from time to time. So I knew he knew a little bit about the gambling part of it, and it could not have gone smoother. Rozelle and the NFL, more than willing to accept the Greek. That was great. And then as we're getting ready to leave to go back to CBS, Pete says, I want to ask you to do one favor for me. Now, one favor from the commissioner in that situation means, here comes the order. He said, I would prefer, Jimmy, that you don't use -3, +7, -10. Now, I'm like, oh my God, there goes the segment, okay? So now, what are we going to say? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We'll make it work. So here comes three schlumps going back to the CBS studio. Now what the hell do we do, okay? So I said, Greek, have you ever used a checkboard? No, hell no, don't use a checkboard. So, okay. So we went back with the producer and the director, and we conceived this thing that if all the check marks were on the left side, everybody knew that might be a double-digit favorite. You know, the New Orleans Saints weren't very good in that day and age, and so maybe if all the check marks were over here with the Dallas Cowboys, maybe that meant Route City. But the Greek insisted, and this is the inside part of the checkboard, the Greek insisted that we have the word intangibles on the board. Little did I know that the Greek's #1 source was my dear friend who is now passed, Al Davis. So every 2 or 3 weeks before a Raider game, let's say the Broncos, and let's say the Broncos were playing somebody else, and let's say the check mark was for the other team. Greek, what's going on? Well, I'm hearing that there's some dissension in the Broncos locker room. So Al had planted the story, and the Greek, he would go to work with. The Greek never did a segment for the NFL Today, but that he didn't talk to his old buddy Al Davis. And so that was, now we were covering the NFC, and I want to get to my man Jan Stenerud, because I always kept an eye on him, because I knew what he had accomplished at Montana State. A Norwegian ski jumper, okay? You imagine a scholarship for ski jumping, okay? And then as a senior, he finally kicks, and the story that he has told forever is the last game of the previous year, he did suit up, but he couldn't kick, he wasn't eligible. But then everybody noticed that next year when he nailed that 59-yard field goal. There wasn't a scout that I was around in the NFL that said, somebody better check that Stenerud out, okay? You better find out about that guy. And I think they beat the Grizz, what was it, 24-7, something like that year. And anyway, As Super Bowl IV came in, I was still covering him as a writer, and Montana again. Stenerud starts it off with 3 field goals, couple extra points, and he goes from there, okay? So Jan Stenerud has always been one of my favorites. I played in his golf tournament. He had a great golf tournament, raised a lot of money up at Montana State in Bozeman. It was a great, great event through the years, and Jan means so much to the state. Now, it's been talked about John Elway. Jack and I were good friends, and he was assistant coach. I want to tell you one story that Jack told me about John, because John, as a little boy, played his first Pee Wee football in Missoula, Montana, okay? He played for the Little Grizz. Okay, so here's the story. Jack was at practice for the Grizz. He couldn't go to the sign-up. But he told John's mom, make sure when you sign him up that you sign him up as a quarterback, okay? Absolutely, got to do it, because Jack wanted John to be a quarterback. On the drive to the Little Grizz sign-up, John Elway told Mom, I'm not signing up as a quarterback. And Mrs. Elway says, John, what are you talking about? Your father wants you to be a quarterback. Nope, I want you to sign me up as a running back. Moms being moms, a lot of moms here, you know what happened. She signed him up as a running back. You know what it is? Now, the Grizz coaches, sometimes the practice would end early, okay? And Jack told me that for the first time John was playing in a game, it ended early, he immediately went over the field to watch the Little Grizz, and he's aghast. There's John, he's furious. What happened? Jack, of course, laughed about it when he told me the story, but he said, you know, it probably did make John a better quarterback in the long run, because we all remember how good he was. And man, if we just could have got him with the Bobcats or the Grizz instead of up there at Stanford, you know, it would have been awesome. But I could go on and on about the stories and the great people that I've been around here in Billings. But there's one last event, and it's in Missoula. I think it was 2015. I get a call in August from ESPN. Brent, I know you've got an SEC game the following week, the season opens, but we're going to put a Montana Grizzly game on the week before to open the season. And you know, listen, we know who they playing. I have North Dakota State, and I said, when can I get there? Okay, so off we go. Now, it goes down to what my favorite, along with the Little League World Series, because what happened in that game, and listen, I thought Coach Bob Stitt was headed for the Hall of Fame, but this was his big day. He goes on 4th down 6 times, converts 4 times, okay? They come down the field in the end, 2 seconds remaining, and I'll never forget, Joey Counts trouncing into the end zone, and the Grizz upset the 4-time defending champion North Dakota State Bison. It was such a moment, sellout crowd in Grizzly Stadium. I just loved every minute of it. But I had told Jesse Palmer and the crew, you guys are going to love Montana. It's so awesome. They're in the stadium. You can see the mountains. Oh, it's going to be great. Well, yep, fire season. Could not even see the M on the damn hill, okay? Jesse at halftime said, Brent, I thought you told me there were mountains in this damn state, you know, but when it was over, they had such a good game and such a good time with it. And my wife, who's with us, Arlene, down here, was in that end zone, and she still remembers Count stepping on in, getting that winning touchdown, probably, you know, all these guys have talked about their wives and how long they've been married. Hell, Arlene and I have been married 58 years, okay? But she says it's only 25 because I traveled that much, you know? But Arlene, Thank you, dear, for raising our 2 children. You did a hell of a job. Okay, now, the other thing, there's a sign back there that says, welcome home, Brent, okay? And I want to thank my longtime friend. Many of you know him here. We grew up in Park Lane. We played baseball together. We played spinner card in the basement when it got cold. He'd make me the announcer. He played with Joe DiMaggio and Stan Musial and Ted Williams. He always took the good players. Dick Cox back there with his lovely wife, Sherry, okay, sitting. And you know, Dick is such a good politician. That's right, he's got the mayor at his table. He knows what the hell he's doing back there. So Dick, thanks a lot for all the support for everybody. But I want to just thank all the people in the state of Montana and for this honor. It means a lot to me because it's the state of Montana, okay? It all started, this was the foundation. And I go back to what I tell you about the family unit, okay? Arlene and I live in Las Vegas, but my heart belongs to Montana. God bless. Thank you all very much.